Hello and welcome back. My name is Keith Thompson with the Untitled Church of Christ here in Western Australia. And we're so thrilled to have you join us as we continue studying through the New Testament, looking at the heroes of the faith. I've been looking forward to this study for a long time because we're going to be studying the Apostle John. Just a wonderful example of a faithful Christian. Now, sometimes we think of these heroes of the faith as being these super Christians, these perfect Christians. But that's not the case. They were just men and women, the same as you and me, who were faithful. And we can see this as we study about John. Now, John, of course, was the apostle of the Lord, and he wrote several books that are found in the New Testament. He wrote the Gospel of John, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, and Revelations. And one of the main themes in his writings is the love of God. And it's underlined so beautifully here in 1 John chapter 4 and verse 10, where we read there, "In this is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be a propitiation for our sins." Verse 11, "Beloved, if God so loved us, we also ought to love one another." And that truly is the teaching of the gospel. God loved us, therefore we ought to love one another. Now, John was one of the first of the apostles to be called. He was a fisherman in Galilee, and we read when Jesus called him. It's found in Matthew chapter 4, verses 21 and 22. And we read there, "Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, in the boat with Zebedee, their father, mending their nets, and he called them. Immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him." There was no hesitation with this man about following Jesus. We've already studied in a previous study about James, and we see now his brother, John. Now, one of the signs of their faithfulness is the fact that he left everything behind to follow Jesus. You don't do that on a whim. You can only do that with a great amount of faith. But tempered with his faith was a good deal of anger. In fact, James and John were called by Jesus the sons of thunder. And we notice this in a passage in Luke chapter 9, where Jesus was heading towards Jerusalem and passing through a village of the Samaritans, and they refused to allow Jesus and his disciples to enter. So we notice in verse 54, when the disciples, James and John, saw this, they said, "Lord, do you want us to command fire to come down from heaven and consume them?" This is what they thought the gospel was all about at that stage. Jesus said, this is not how we go about it. John turned from being a son of thunder, calling fire down on those who didn't follow Jesus, to the disciple who preached love. What a wonderful change we see in him. Now, John was one of the three apostles that were closest to Jesus. We see Peter, James, and John. It was these three that Jesus called together to the raising of Lazarus' daughter. It was these three, and only these three, he called to the Mount of Transfiguration to witness when Jesus was transfigured before them. And it was only James, Peter, and John who Jesus asked to come with them deeper into the Garden of Gethsemane. Notice what we read in Matthew chapter 26, and we're going to read verses 36 and 37. "Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane, and said to his disciples, 'Sit here and pray while I go there.' And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be grieved and distressed." In this time of great stress and and anguish, Jesus chose Peter, James, and John to be closest to him. John was there when Jesus was hanging on the cross, about to die. Notice what we read in John chapter 19, verses 26 and 27. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." From that hour, the disciple took her into his house. Now you notice this is found in the Gospel of John, and no place in that Gospel does he mention himself by name, but he calls himself the disciple whom Jesus loved. He was the one that Jesus wanted to look after his mother Mary after he died, and that's what John did. Well, we're out of time now, but next week join us as we look at part 2 of the hero of the faith, the Apostle John. Thank you so much for your company now. If you have any questions, please put them down in the comment section below and we'll get right back to you. Goodbye and see you next time.